Welcome to the Confident Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Anne, mama of two, holistic pregnancy and pediatric sleep consultant, and the founder of Empowered Decisions. In our seasons together, I'm here to help you step into your inner confidence from pregnancy to motherhood. Whether you are preparing to meet your baby or integrating into new mom life, this is a safe space with education and support for your journey. Join me as we raise the vibe of our motherhood collective. Welcome back to the Confident Motherhood Podcast. Hi, I'm Anne, your holistic pregnancy and infant and toddler sleep coach. And tonight we're going to talk about toddlers, nightmares, or night terrors, because this comes up a lot. Actually, ironically enough, had an explore call with a family earlier today with a 3-year-old. And the mom shared, she was like, look, I know that this whole nightmare, night terror thing is common. Is it just going to run its course? What are expectations? I'm like, this is a good one for the podcast, because while nightmares and night terrors gets normalized, right? It's normal. They go through this. There's also a lot of ways that we can help them to where, yes, if it happens kind of here and there, no big deal. But there are also reasons why we're seeing these sorts of things. And I think when you can identify between nightmares and night terrors, it's really helpful. And I want to share some tips that can help in this category with toddlers and toddler sleep. So if you are suspecting that your little one is having nightmares or night terrors, let's just start with how do you know? And let's create some definition around these. So a nightmare is often going to come along with crying and tears. Now, your child may remember parts. Let's say they had a dream. They may remember parts of their dream come morning. So there may be some sort of connectivity and remembrance around this happening at nighttime. But nightmares are typically going to happen in the last part of the night. When we look at night terrors, which I do think are appropriately, named, night terrors are going to be more of a sudden wake, which is what I suspected with a family that I was speaking with earlier today. They're like, he just wakes up, he just screams. Oftentimes nightmares are coming along with screaming, but they likely are not going to remember it come morning. They kind of seem they're out of it, a little bit of a delusional state. They may not seem fully awake, and night terrors happen more so in the beginning of the night. So I hope that this essentially is going to kind of create a little bit more clarity on what's the difference, because they usually just get lumped together, right? It's a nightmare, it's a night terror, but they're happening in different parts of the night, and they can look very different when they happen. So what causes them? Okay, yes, we know that they can watch a show or read a book and all of a sudden be scared by things. That's real. We can definitely see this. My kids have not watched the movie yet. I think the movie she said was called Brave. But nonetheless, I just had a call with a mom the other day, just within this week. And she was like, oh, I regret it. I let her watch this movie Brave. And now she's scared and she's waking up and it infiltrated her nighttime. So yes, we can see those sorts of things where they consume some sort of something and it's impacting their nighttime or they're having dreams around it. But we still need to kind of look at where is it happening and what does it look like, because that's going to be very telling to us. So now let's talk about the cause of these things. Majority of the time, when we're talking about nightmares or night terrors, there is some baseline of overtiredness and or overstimulation. It either happened in their daytime or before bedtime. That is a really common trigger for both of these. Now, with nightmares, like I mentioned, it could be because they found something scary in a show or a book, and that has crept into their memory. That's not always the case with night terrors, where it's more of that sudden and they're screaming. That usually is going to be connected to some sort of overtiredness or overstimulation. I say this all the time that toddlers can rally, okay? Toddlers can rally, they can stay awake for an exceptional amount of time, but it doesn't always mean that we want them to and that they should. So since I holistically coach with families, I will always look at all of these pieces. Are they overtired? Are they undertired? What do their routines look like? What does their day look like? What's their stimulation look like? What, kind of really preparing them going into their nighttime to make sure that we do not have too much overtiredness, overstimulation, and these things that could be negatively impacting their nighttime. So now let's kind of talk about some things that you can do, keep an eye out on, maybe make some adjustments to kind of help them out if you're feeling like the nightmare, the night terrors are not just once in a blue moon, random, but it's feeling a little bit more frequent to you. So number one is always, where can we cut out some stimulation? Or some overstimulation, if you will, mentally. Now, this is where I like to cut screen time if you can. like anywhere from 45 minutes to 60 minutes before bedtime routine. Anything beyond that is really just a bonus to prevent that overstimulation. Now, I got to be honest, when I am working with toddler parents, it is very common that I will see little, let's see, I don't know, 5, 10, 15-minute episodes of something. And it is to kind of either help them eat dinner, like to lock in to help them eat dinner, or to help them brush their teeth, or, just to get them into their room and kind of plug them in for a few minutes so that you can move on with the next part of their routine. It's still stimulating, and not all screen time is created equally, right? So always try to choose, if you do have something that's really close to bedtime and it's something that you're like, no, I don't want to take this out. If I can take it out, I'm going to take it out. But if you can't, then choose something that is more low stimulation. And that, I think that category is kind of confused at times. And I have this conversation with my eldest sometimes on what is the difference between high stimulation and low stimulation. High stimulation are going to be shows where it is half a second, 1 second, 2 seconds, where the frame is constantly changing. That is very stimulating to the mind. When you have slower shows, I think one great option or example of this is Stillwater, which I believe is on Apple TV. It is very slow. You will see as you start if you haven't seen this before and you start observing it with child shows, you'll start to see and start counting like how many seconds it takes before they're cutting to the next scene or whatnot. But Stillwater does a great job of that, where it's just very slow. So if you're going to have some screen time and it's going to be either in the routine or very close to the routine, just choose something that's more low stimulation versus high stimulation. Because once we're asking them for it to be bedtime, or we're wrapping up with the books or the songs, or they're getting in their bed, if their mind is go, or their routine wasn't kind of set up in a way to prepare them for bed, those little minds do not stop moving. So anything that we can do to help them kind of slow down and prepare for bedtime, the better. Then on the kind of like low stimulation, but if you do want to kind of replace that screen time, it can be things like a Yoto player or a Tony box, where it's not something that they're watching, but they do get to tune into like a song or a little audiobook. Now, same thing, there's always going to be Tonys and Yotos that are more mentally stimulating than others, but both of those companies do a great job also of having story time and sleepy time and meditation time, like really bringing it down, which those can be really great additions to nap and bedtime routines. Okay, number 2 in the tips to help here is going to be to prevent overtiredness before bedtime. Now, there's always going to be the conversation around overtiredness and undertiredness. We always have to make sure that toddlers have their little buckets full. So we have their quality time bucket and their control bucket, and we of course meet their needs, right? Their hygiene and their nutrition, but we also have their sensory needs bucket, and some little ones have a bigger bucket and a smaller bucket, making sure that they do have good physical and mental stimulation, good sensory input for their body that is going to help them in the falling asleep and staying asleep process, making sure that your little one has really good sleep drive. If you're unsure of what scheduling, when nap time should be, when bedtime should be, if you do suspect or feel that your child is getting to a point in their evening where all of a sudden they're bouncing off the walls and they're super hyper or they're really tired, I can help you to narrow in on that. I do free sleep coaching explore calls and, support calls booked as needed, those sorts of things. If you're just feeling a little bit lost and you're not sure of when bedtime should be, helping to identify that and just make sure that they have a good age appropriate schedule is also going to help out with these sorts of things where you're seeing night disruption or nightmares or night terrors. Okay, then tip wise, once the waking happens, I just want you to assess first if they're going back to sleep. Because again, sometimes when we have that kind of, they're a little out of it, are they awake, are they not? Sometimes we just enter too early. So sometimes they will have these kind of like brief wake ups where they seem really upset and we kind of rush in, and then we're engaging with a little one that's not really awake yet, and that can be a little bit tricky on our end. So just always assess first, like, are they going back to sleep, or is there a need to enter? Or maybe they're in your room. But if there's a need to enter and kind of sit with them, just sometimes it's just literally holding space or just being with them there safely until they either calm and go back to sleep, or they come to a place of awareness, which doesn't always happen. But this is going to be key before they're able to fall back asleep, is just that we're assessing. Now with a terror, like I mentioned, they may not come to awareness before they go back to sleep. This is just more on our end to make sure that we are there if you're feeling like they're just a little bit, again, when it's wake and scream, it's startling for us in the middle of the night. We're like, oh my God, what's happening, right? We kind of like rush in there. So just always assess if you need to be with them as they calm or go back to sleep. It's completely fine. Now, anytime there is awareness around something that is scary, or if they do remember it come morning time, validate their feelings wherever this is happening, whether it's at nighttime and they're having a full-on conversation with you, or this is coming in the morning. Validate their feelings. I get asked this a lot as I'm dealing with, and the mom that I spoke with, where she let her little girl watch that movie, she was like, okay, Anne, she's now scared of bears. So am I telling her that she's not scared of bears, or what? She's like, she thinks I'm going to turn into a bear. And I'm like, gosh, I really need to watch this movie. But yes, I told her we absolutely have to validate their feelings. It's not our job. It's not our job to say, no, don't be afraid of bears. And no, don't feel that way. No, there's no monsters. No, don't worry about the scary shadows. Like, it's not going to help. We really, as we can help them with that connection, especially around sleep, which can bring about some challenges, is just to validate and tell them too. I have scary dreams too sometimes. I wake up sometimes, I'm like, your kind of heart's racing a little bit and you're like, oh, it just happened. So I do think that the validation part is really important, especially when you have little ones that do have some remembrance in the morning, to kind of use that opportunity to dig a little bit deeper. Sometimes it's very in our face that mom knew that she watched the movie. She knew exactly what was happening. I had a similar scenario. My son was about 4, so this is going on about 4 years ago, where he was reading books. He was very into bugs and spiders, and it wasn't a scary thing. He was just learning about bug facts. And all of a sudden, I started to see this infiltrate bedtime and nighttime, where he was convinced there were spiders in his room and in his bed. Now, I don't love spiders. So I was already like, I don't do those things before bedtime. I already know what that's going to look like. But at the time, I was like, oh, he seems really interested. Like, okay. And then I realized, as I started digging a little bit deeper and assessing what he was doing in his daytime, I'm like, oh, it's those damn books that he's reading. And now it's coming in. So sometimes we need to use that connection time with them to validate their feelings, and maybe also get curious. Again, we're not trying to project onto them what we think they may be scared about, but just get curious and ask them questions, because that can be really helpful. And then lastly, have patience. Have patience in this process. I want you to have the reassurance that this is very common, and commonly they do outgrow these sorts of things, but we can take the steps to make sure that we, either cut out or adjust the screen time. We create some more unwind and mentally prepare for bedtime. We make sure they have a good age appropriate schedule. They're not overtired. They're not undertired. We can do things kind of around these scenarios to assess how infrequent or frequent are we seeing these sorts of nightmares or night terrors, the broken nights, because ultimately if our little ones have consistency where they're having these broken nights, they're also not as rested, right, as they could be if they were having more uninterrupted nights of sleep. So if this is something that you're dealing with, please know you can also book a free explore call. I do them about 15-20 minutes where we can dive into these things or support another capacity. So I hope that this was helpful to kind of help you identify, create some definition, why are these things caused, and some tips to help. And until the next episode, lots of love. Whether you're a tired mom struggling with your little one's sleep, or an expecting mom looking for empowerment and advocacy as you prepare for birth, I'm here to show up for you with proven strategies and education to elevate your journey. You deserve to feel heard and given the tools to have success. Mama, you do not have to navigate your pregnancy or sleep struggles alone. Head over to empoweredwithann.com to discover how we can support you. Confidence, empowerment, and peace are just a click away.